Hey everyone, I'm doing a neuroscience of awareness blog, and I've defined the mind, according to neurobiology, as an emergent process that regulates energy and information flow. And today I'm going to start leading us down a journey to understand the word integration. And in neurobiology, integration equals health. So it's like the main word that we're going to teach over and over. But I've decided that in order to get to talking about integration, I want to start with what's called your window of tolerance. Because when you're in your window of tolerance, it's also called your resilient zone, you're able to have an emotion, it's called arousal or emotional intensity, and at the same time, you're able to access these higher functions that you're going to hear me talking about. That is the definition of what a window of tolerance is. Whereas if you're completely consumed by a particular emotion, you're going to be in hyperarousal, which is that chaos, or hypoarousal, which is that rigidity. So let me pull up the PowerPoint. So here's that window of tolerance I was talking about. You want to widen your window of tolerance. One suggestion for that is called name it to tame it, or a feeling is not a fact. And what that does is if you're being flooded with emotion, if you name it and you talk about yourself in third person, even like Heidi is feeling anger, it helps you not in that moment get consumed by the emotion and think that you are only the emotion, because you get tricked by your brain when you lose your window of tolerance and you fall into those riverbanks. So this is how you can stay in a higher state of integration. You can name it to tame it. You could say a feeling is not a fact. And in the neurobiology model, we take this window of tolerance, which again, that is being in a higher state of integration if you're in that window of tolerance. And then an emotion that downshifts you, like fear or anger or sadness, what that would do is that would make you go to a lower state of integration, and you would end up on these riverbanks of rigidity or chaos. So what happens is we take that model that I just showed you and we flip it sideways. So if you can just imagine this chart here flipping, and you've got these riverbanks of chaos, that's the hyperarousal, and you've got the riverbank of rigidity, and that's the hypoarousal. And you'll see this, for example, with someone who's bipolar. They'll have manias, that's the chaos, and then they'll have depression, which is the rigidity. So Dan Siegel, the neuropsychiatrist who created this model, it was a way to get away from pathologizing people who, are mentally ill or emotionally ill. What we can do is we can just look at this model from a framework of integration and emotional health, and then like lowering states of emotional health. So what someone would need is they would need help with integration, with achieving higher states of integration, and this model is going to help people be able to do that. So I'm just going to name one example. We'll say grief to explain this window of tolerance, and I'll close out this recording for this time. When you have grief and your window of tolerance is narrow, let's say you're younger and you haven't had a lot of experience with someone dying, so you've never really experienced real grief in the moment, and what happens is that grief can be really intense emotion, and so when it hits you, you may not be able to be aware of what you're feeling. Number one, that's insight, and you may not be able to express to other people what you're feeling and get empathy. So what we want to do is we want to become aware of what we're feeling to widen our window of tolerance and not be flooded with emotion or become numb and shut down. Versus if you've had a few losses in your life, you know what the pain of loss is, and you're able to feel it, and it's a real thing, and you can describe it, but your window of tolerance is like a little bit wider, so you can be in that state of emotional intensity with grief, but you can also still connect with other people. the emotions that grieving might cause you in a single moment in time doesn't prevent you from also being able to go about your daily life and work or connect with people. And people have different windows of tolerance for all kinds of different emotions. So this is just a start. I'd love to hear people's comments about how the window of tolerance applies to them. And we will just continue with this model. Next time I talk, I'm going to talk about an emotion